In the ever-expanding story of Jeffrey Epstein's network, a new and significant chapter is about to be written, not in a courtroom, but before the United States Congress. Catherine Ruemmler, a figure who has navigated the highest echelons of power, from the West Wing of the White House to the executive suites of Goldman Sachs, is now set to face the House Oversight Committee. The subject of this high-stakes testimony, her documented connections to the disgraced financier, Jeffrey Epstein. This development pulls a prominent legal and corporate mind into the ongoing, painstaking effort to understand the full scope of Epstein's influence and the web of enablers that surrounded him. According to a report by Reuters, Ruemmler has voluntarily agreed to testify, a move that follows the public release of Department of Justice documents that have cast a harsh spotlight on her past interactions with Epstein. These are not just casual mentions. They are records of communication and exchanges that have raised serious questions and prompted this formal inquiry by lawmakers. The testimony promises to be a pivotal moment, potentially illuminating the intersections of power, wealth, and influence that defined Epstein's world. To understand the gravity of this moment, one must first understand the trajectory of Catherine Ruemmler's career. She is not a peripheral figure. Ruemmler first gained national prominence as a top federal prosecutor, known for her role in the Enron task force. Her reputation as a sharp and formidable litigator propelled her into the heart of American government. She served in the Obama administration, ultimately rising to the position of White House counsel, one of the most trusted and sensitive legal roles in the executive branch. In this capacity, she was the president's chief lawyer, advising on a vast array of legal and ethical matters, from national security issues to judicial appointments. After her tenure in public service, Ruemmler transitioned to the private sector, joining the global investment bank Goldman Sachs in 2020. She quickly ascended to the role of chief legal officer and general counsel, and later became a member of the firm's management committee. This career path places her squarely at the nexus of law, politics, and high finance, the very domains where Epstein cultivated his influence. Her resignation from Goldman Sachs in February of this year was not a quiet departure. It came directly on the heels of revelations contained within newly unsealed documents, linking her name to his. The catalyst for this congressional hearing is a collection of documents released by the Department of Justice. These files, part of a larger trove of evidence related to the investigation into Jeffrey Epstein, were made public, and their contents sent shockwaves through legal and corporate circles. The documents primarily consist of internal records from another major financial institution, JP Chase, which itself has faced intense scrutiny over its long-standing banking relationship with Epstein. Within these thousands of pages are email communications that detail the interactions between Epstein and a number of influential individuals. It was here, buried in the digital archives of a bank, that Catherine Ruemmler's name surfaced. The release of these specific files provided the first concrete, public evidence of a direct relationship between her and Epstein, forcing a public reckoning and leading directly to her departure from Goldman Sachs. For the House Oversight Committee, these documents are more than just background material. They are the primary evidence, the starting point for a line of questioning aimed at understanding the nature and extent of their association. The emails in question span a significant period, from 2014 to 2019. This timeline is critical. It covers the years after Epstein's 2008 conviction and non-prosecution agreement in Florida, a time when his criminal history was a matter of public record, yet before his final arrest in 2019 on federal sex trafficking charges. The exchanges detailed in the DOJ files are not fleeting or singular. They suggest a cordial and ongoing correspondence. The documents show Ruemmler and Epstein discussing various topics, arranging meetings, and most notably, exchanging gifts and advice. The emails paint a picture of a professional relationship that was, at the very least, friendly. They reveal that Epstein was actively seeking to maintain and leverage his connections within powerful circles, and the correspondence suggests Ruemmler was a part of that network. The content ranges from logistical, planning to meet for a drink, to substantive, with Rumler at times offering her perspective on how Epstein should handle negative media attention. It is this combination of casual familiarity and professional counsel that has drawn the intense interest of investigators. Among the most tangible details to emerge from the documents is the record of gifts Epstein sent to Rumler, which she accepted. The emails specifically mention several items: bottles of wine, a luxury handbag, and a Hermes watch band. While on the surface these might seem like simple pleasantries, in the context of corporate compliance and legal ethics, they raise immediate red flags. Most large corporations, and certainly a global financial institution like Goldman Sachs, have strict policies regarding the acceptance of gifts. These rules are designed to prevent conflicts of interest, both real and perceived. The value, frequency, and source of gifts are typically scrutinized. For a chief legal officer, the individual ultimately responsible for upholding and enforcing such policies. Accepting gifts from a convicted sex offender like Epstein creates a significant ethical problem. The question for the committee will not just be about the gifts themselves, but about the judgment exercised in accepting them. Did this violate corporate policy at her then-employer? Did it represent a lapse in the ethical standards expected of a former White House counsel? These items, a wine bottle, a handbag, a watch band, are no longer just accessories. They have become pieces of evidence in a much larger investigation into ethics and accountability. Beyond the acceptance of gifts, the DOJ documents reveal another dimension to their relationship. Rumler occasionally provided Epstein with advice. Specifically, the emails show her offering suggestions on how to respond to media inquiries. This advisory role is particularly troubling to investigators. At the time of these exchanges, Rumler was a partner at a prestigious law firm and later a top executive at Goldman Sachs, while Epstein was contending with ongoing negative press about his past crimes and associations. For a lawyer of her stature to be informally advising a figure like Epstein on public relations strategy raises profound questions about her judgment and the nature of their connection. Was this a formal client relationship? Was it an informal favor for a friend? Or was it something in between? In response to these revelations, a spokesperson for Rumler has issued statements maintaining her innocence. They have stated that she welcomes the opportunity to testify and set the record straight. The official position is that she has done nothing wrong, that her interactions with Epstein were limited, and, crucially, that she was not aware of any ongoing criminal activity on his part. This defense will now be tested under the full scrutiny of a congressional hearing. The House Committee on Oversight and Accountability is the main investigative body of the House of Representatives, armed with the authority to investigate any matter within its legislative purview. Its inquiry into the Epstein network is a bipartisan effort, aimed at uncovering the full extent of his operations and identifying any individuals or institutions that may have facilitated his crimes. The committee's process is methodical. It begins with gathering evidence, such as the DOJ documents. This is followed by requests for voluntary testimony, as is the case with Ms. Rumler. During the hearing, members of the committee from both parties will have the opportunity to question her under oath. The focus will likely be on clarifying the timeline of her relationship with Epstein, probing the context of the emails, understanding her thought process in accepting gifts, and dissecting the advice she provided. Lawmakers will want to know who initiated the contact, how often they met or communicated, and whether she ever provided Epstein with any legal or business services through her official roles. The goal is not necessarily punitive in the legal sense. This is not a criminal trial, but to establish a public record of facts and to inform potential legislative or regulatory reforms. Catherine Rumler's testimony is one part of a much broader investigation. The Oversight Committee is not just looking at individuals, it is examining the systemic failures and cultural permissiveness that allowed Epstein to operate for decades. The probe has several key angles. The first is finance. Investigators are scrutinizing the banks and financial institutions that managed Epstein's vast fortune, questioning whether they ignored red flags in exchange for lucrative business. The second angle is politics. Epstein cultivated relationships with powerful figures across the political spectrum, and the committee is seeking to understand how that influence was used and what access it provided. A third critical area is academia. Epstein donated millions to prestigious universities like Harvard and MIT, gaining a veneer of intellectual legitimacy and access to top scientists. The committee is exploring how these institutions vetted Epstein and whether his funding came with inappropriate strings attached. Rumler's career touches on all three of these worlds, making her a uniquely valuable witness. Her testimony could provide a first-hand account of how Epstein moved seamlessly between Washington, D.C., Wall Street, and the Ivory Tower, and how his network was maintained. The revelations have sparked intense debate within legal and corporate compliance circles. The central issue is one of professional standards and ethical judgment. For lawyers, especially those in senior positions, there is a duty to avoid even the appearance of impropriety. The American Bar Association's model rules of professional conduct, while not legally binding in this context, set a high bar for integrity. They stress a lawyer's obligation to the law and to the public's trust in the legal profession. Similarly, for a corporate officer at a publicly traded company, particularly the chief legal officer, the fiduciary duty to the company and its shareholders is paramount. This includes protecting the firm's reputation. Associating with a convicted felon, accepting gifts, and providing informal advice could all be viewed as actions that expose a firm to reputational risk. The reaction from Goldman Sachs, while not officially detailed, can be inferred from the timing of Rumler's departure. It suggests that, at a minimum, the situation became untenable for the firm. Legal experts are now watching closely, as this case could become a modern case study in corporate governance and the personal responsibilities of powerful executives in the post-Epstein era. As the date of the hearing approaches, all eyes will be on the House Oversight Committee. Catherine Rumler's testimony has the potential to add several more crucial pieces to the troubling and complex puzzle of Jeffrey Epstein's network. Key questions remain. What will she say under oath? Will her explanations satisfy the committee and the public? And what will the consequences be for her personally and for the powerful institutions she has represented? This is more than the story of one person's connection to a notorious criminal. It is a story about accountability, influence, and the standards to which we hold our leaders in government and business. The testimony will be a public record, scrutinized by lawmakers, the media, and the public alike, as the search for a full accounting of the Epstein saga continues. We will continue to follow this story as it develops. Stay tuned.